I remember my first time playing Conquest like it was yesterday. I heard it was hard, so I played on normal mode, but since permadeath is a very important part of Fire Emblem, I decided to play on classic mode still. It was absolutely the best decision I could have made. If you don't know, Conquest and Fates in general is a very interesting point in the series. Coming off the casual cooties of Awakening babies, they decided to make a game that would satisfy everyone, by individually tailoring the games to specific people. Conquest was decided to be the hard game. With a story panned in the community, it's still pretty positive overall due to it having some of the best gameplay in the series. After 4 playthroughs, I'm sure it's a shocker, but I like the gameplay too. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but Conquest is one of the few games I've actually played on every single difficulty, and I thought the challenge was perfect for its intended audience. Lunatic difficulty is the ultimate challenge in Conquest, with the intent being for people who really want one of the hardest Fire Emblem experiences. Within the past 2 months, I've played Lunatic Conquest twice, and both playthroughs went extremely differently. The game rewards extreme knowledge of game mechanics and encourages you to break things like how AI works. Unlike other FE difficulties, the difficulty doesn't make you go insane because it's unbalanced, like say Awakening Lunatic Plus or Three Houses Maddening. Instead, it prides itself on being completely fair for like 90% of the maps. No ambush spawns, no defeat condition green units, no fog of war. The game simply challenges you to see what happens and make decisions based on what you were given. It's exactly what I want in hard modes in any video game, really. Even bad units like parry can contribute reasonably well if you know what you're doing, and can even put in great work in your army. You have to know what skills to get, when to reclass, what support partners to get, and so on. And that's what I want to talk about today. In most scenarios, Lunatic difficulty doesn't seem to add that much over hard. 90% of the time, the enemy starts the exact same as hard, with even the final boss only gaining like 10 HP over its hard mode equivalent. Side note that even the final boss only gains 2 in some stats from normal to hard, with 5 HP gain. Instead, what the game does to challenge you is not in pure stat inflation, but actually, making you strategize in this strategy game. The biggest changes are more threatening skills on enemies and an increased amount of said enemies. For example, on later maps with staff users, they have the enemy-only skill Staff Savant. This makes it impossible to simply wait out their debuffs, and you have to engage with them whether you want to or not. Or on the famous Chapter 10 where the mini-bosses Oboro and Hinata have movement +1 to screw with you, make them even more dangerous. On the same map, there's about 10 more enemies to encourage you to play better. I cannot say this enough, but this method of difficulty is way better than many other difficulties in the series. For example, on Three Houses Maddening, you get to the point in endgame where the stat difference between normal and maddening is about 2 times the stats. That's simply ridiculous and just makes the game incredibly annoying. It wouldn't be as bad, but this also applies to the speed stat, which I'd argue is one of the most important stats that needs to be under control on harder difficulties. On Conquest, however, it's very specifically balanced that unless your character with speed problems, you probably won't ever get doubled, unless you're severely underleveled. Obviously, there's niche scenarios like Hana who has insane speed, but most generic enemies won't double you unless you're Penny. The most important threshold in Conquest, however, is your units doubling the enemies. Reaching that threshold without any boost can be hard or even impossible depending on the unit, but Fates gives you so many tools to reach that threshold to cut kill thresholds in half. Tonics, rallies, pair-up, dances, and even personal skills can help ease it out, and it will never feel like it's impossible to reach that threshold. It's to the point where base level Benny can actually double every enemy in the game with enough setup. And many times the game expects you to stat stack with whatever you have available. For example, Azura's inspiring song giving 3 speed may not seem like that much, but oftentimes that can put you just over the edge to kill some tricky enemies. It creates a very satisfying rhythm to me, at least, where you're just out of reach and have to put effort into securing kills. It encourages you to class change, get new weapons, get new skills to really thrive in it. It's very punishing at times, but it never feels outrageous to do something. I've rewritten this next part, so just pretend I had a really cool transition that really utilized my excellent writing ability, because I've totally not had writer's block for the past month, obviously. In my opinion, map design is one of the most important parts of making a fun Fire Emblem game. At least for me, if a map doesn't encourage me to play in a fun way, I simply will not. I will optimize the fun out of a game. if given the chance. But typically this game doesn't do that. Why? Pretty simple. This game carefully makes maps that counter the typical Fire Emblem strategies. Lunatic simply makes the margin of error a lot more strict. If you want to cheese maps, there's totally ways to do that, but I'd argue you'd have to use a lot of game knowledge and finagling to get it right. For example, Chapter 8 has a bunch of villages with gold rewards. You need 3 out of 5 to get the max reward, but on turn 1, the first village will immediately be destroyed. If you use the totally not cheating path bonuses, you can get enough movement to freeze the enemy and make the chapter much easier. You can also reclass Corn into a 7 move class to do this, which I did this playthrough, and it was pretty neat. I did have a roughly 300 word paragraph explaining this more in detail, but it's boring and I hate it, so I'm getting rid of it. Basically, either way, you're sacrificing many things, and also need to know this is even a thing if you want to do it. Another neat cheese example is chapters 19 through 21. Reclassing everyone useful to a flyer can basically trivialize all of these maps, but once again, there are many sacrifices. Although a good thing is you do get to skip Kusune Leo, which is actually a really terrible map, oh my goodness. But you will likely lose out XP if you can't reclass a certain unit to a flyer. You may miss out on some treasure, like a very useful rescue staff. On my most recent Lunatic run, I didn't cheese the maps this way, and was surprised that the rest of the game is actually much easier if you play it in the intended way. Shocking, I know. After this point, flying is not essential in Conquest at all. And arguably, many of the maps like Takumi severely punish you if all of your units are flyers, as you may just get soft-locked at Takumi himself. The game encourages you to reclass frequently so you can get back into classes that are more suitable for endgame, which I think is pretty neat. The last one I wanted to talk about is the final map itself, which seems to many players to be so daunting that you'd rather just skip it using 2 or 3 out of the 4 rescue staff uses, to travel across the map in one round Takumi. This is incredibly difficult to get enough raw stats to do this, and requires a lot of player knowledge, although there is complex guides to help with this. However, the script has taken so long to produce that I have played Lunatic for a 3rd time, and actually played this map, and honestly, it's probably my favorite map in the whole series. I kinda wanna save a lot of my thoughts for a separate video, but you're really encouraged to use every option available, play as fast as possible through the reinforcements. Offensive staves actually being darn near essential is amazing, as I've basically never used any of them in any Fire Emblem game so far. The one silence rod you get 2 chapters before is needed to stop some of the staff savant and inevitable end users. I know it seems incredibly hard, but I implore you, if you like hard Fire Emblem, please try this map on Lunatic. You might need to paralog chain to get to a high enough level, but with enough thought, it is extremely fun and rewarding to play this map legitimately. This is incredibly different from other games, 3 houses, where the most fun way to play the game is to not play it at all, and just one turn every map you can. A game where you're encouraged to strategize and almost even have many puzzle-like scenarios, where you have to figure out exactly what you need to do. You know, a game with good map design. In the original version of the script, I didn't have anything more to say, but after thinking about it, I decided to elaborate a bit more on stat stacking. It is very ridiculous. I mean, like, not necessarily just a Lunatic thing, but the game incentivizes it way more. For example, I attempted to use Nyx this run, but she is so garbage that I could basically never find ways to feed her kills, even with DLC class and stat boosters. So I benched her and decided to use Leo, who was basically unchanged from his join time 5 chapters ago. Usually using a unit after they have been benched isn't a great idea, but I had some strategy to improve his stats. His base speed is at this time at least, mediocre 15 in Dark Knight. Doubling makes everything easier, so I decided to change him to a Dark Falcon with 4 more base speed. That's 19, adding a Felicia pair up with no support gives him 3. That's 22. Giving a meal and tonic is 2 each, so then it's 26 raw alone. Some extra runs are tomes giving speed like Horse Spirit, making it 29, or even Calamity Gig giving 1 with 27, which by the way allowed him completely at base from 5 chapters ago, previously doubling the 3 Spear Masters in Fuga's Wild Ride and having Weapon Triangle advantage too. If I wanted to stack it even more at this point, getting speed +2 from Dark Falcon, Inspiring Song, Rallies, Felicia S support, I could even make that 41, which is super overkill obviously. At any point, if you need to double and there isn't outside circumstances like Wary Fighter, you absolutely can with some effort. And that's only thinking in mostly temporary stat boosters. If you get speed wings or level up speed, that can go even higher. And that's with them starting at just 15 speed. Obviously, some of that is DLC some aren't willing to use, but not all of it. And as a special fun fact, that 41 matches the fastest enemy in the game, who also has 41 speed. Go figure. And this is for a unit that's strong point isn't supposed to be his speed. This grants you a lot of freedom in any-game maps to do some crazy stuff, which feels fair because the game also throws you a lot in Lunatic. But anyways, back to me from 2 weeks ago. Okay, so, this was originally intended to be a much longer video, but, it's 10 minutes recording it, and I don't really have time to make anything else, so, I'm just gonna leave it there. Obviously, 2,000 words isn't exactly a small amount of my thoughts, but, anyways, out of the games I played, I think Lunatic Conquest is the most fair, balanced, and intricately designed hard mode I've possibly ever played. There's no tricks, no stupid things, just cold hard tactics. That is such a weird way to describe that. I'm going insane. Even when considering player units, I honestly don't think any of them are that terrible. Units like Kana, Ignatius, Nyx, and Perry might have severe problems like bad stats, incredibly difficult to obtain, and bad stats, and uh-oh, I'm realizing a trend. Just kidding. I don't actually think Perry is that bad, but that's a discussion for a different video that may or may not happen. You know. It's clear to me intelligent systems put a ton of effort into Conquest, and especially Lunatic Conquest, to make it as enjoyable as possible for me. Only me, obviously. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I also hope I'm able to make more videos. Bruh, it's been a month. What? And have a nice day. See you next time.